me make an introduction. Good afternoon. My name is Jeff. I think most of you know me. I'm with Total Running Club, and this is Project Fit, which I'd like to quickly talk about before we get into the questions. Hopefully, all of you have signed up. I think most of you will have. And as you've seen, Project Fit is a free initiative. We're aiming to make Malaysia fitter and faster. That's our objective. It's focused around running, but doesn't have to just be for runners. We're trying to help everyone get a little bit healthier, get a little bit fitter, and get faster with the running. So every week we've got free content for you. We've got the speed workout, we've got the strength workout, we've got a weekly challenge, and we've got this feature, which currently is as a Q&A. We're probably going to call that Ask Coach. So it's a great chance to get free advice. I'm going to do my best to answer all your questions as accurately as I can. So that's Project Fit. Thanks for supporting it. We've already had a huge sign up, which is fantastic. But please tell your friends. Please get your family involved. Let's really try and raise the profile of that. I'm pretty excited about it. I think we can really make a big difference, and I'm looking forward to helping everyone. And we've got lots of new things planned for it coming your way. Okay, so for anyone who doesn't know me, I'm a runner. I'm a passionate sports person. Running is my main sport. It used to be squash. Back in a former life, I was a squash player and a squash coach and a squash referee. But now my attention is focused on running. And I love running. I love helping others with their running. And it's a constant learning process. I think that's very important to mention. Nobody knows it all. I certainly do not. But what I can offer you is my experience and what I've learned and what I am still continuing to learn. But of course, you must do your own research, and of course, you must speak to different people and try and find what works for you. So with running, I think it's very important, and with running training, I think it's very important to stress that there is not one right way. Everyone is different. Everyone is very, very different, and you have to find what works for you. But of course, you don't need to start from scratch. You can join clubs, and you can learn from people that have done it already. So okay. So that's enough about me. Thank you for tuning in. This video will be available as a playback. We're going to edit it and upload it on our YouTube. So it will be part of Project Fit every week. I'm not sure what format we will use each week, but for now, this is what we're doing. It's great to see many of you online, but of course, it's hard to find the right time and date, but you can always play it back. So lots of you have sent in your questions. Thank you very much. So I'm going to work through those, but you're also welcome to type your questions in and interact, and I'll keep an eye on those. I'll be looking about 30 to 45 minutes, depending how we get on. We'll definitely stop it at 45. Okay, so I'm going to kick off with a relatively easy question. Well, it's not that easy, actually. So Juliana was asking me, hi, Juliana. She's one of my regulars, one of my friends. With the weekly speed workout and the weekly strength session, how often do we need to do those, and when should we do those? So that's a great question, and important to stress. Project Fit is not a training plan, so I'm not giving you do this, do this, do this, do this. It's almost impossible to create a training plan. I've learned that over the years. It has to be personalized for the individual. So that's not our intention. Our intention is to give little bits and pieces which can help you. So the speed workout is something you must do every week, and that will give you a fantastic improvement. If you're running, let's say 3 times a week, then you should be doing 1 speed work, I would say. If you're running more than that, 4 or 5 times a week, then you can potentially do 2 speed sessions per week. But there's no rule of thumb on that, but definitely not more than 2. So your speed session you can do anytime you want. You definitely want to be doing that on fresh legs, so not after a hard session, not after a long run, not after a gym session. So feel fresh for it, because that's the session you really want to get stuck in and train as hard as you can. All your easy running, your slow running is just supporting, it's building towards those harder sessions. With strength sessions, so the second part of that question, so we've done a video once a week. I think once a week is a nice frequency to do. But strength work is something you can do a lot more of. If you have time, you can do it almost every day, but you don't want it to detract from your hard running sessions. But in my own training, I do a little bit most days, but I save the one hard strength session to do once per week. So hopefully that answers your question, Juliana. I'm going to go on to the next question, and I think someone can perhaps type in a fresh one. This is a tough one, but it's one that a lot of people are talking about at the moment, and it's VO2 Max. And a lot of us are wearing these watches which tell us what our VO2 Max reading is. Now, I want to talk about that a little bit. I think it's very important that you look at your running watch with a little bit of objectivity. So it is just a watch. It's not a magical tool. Of course, technology now is advancing, and there's lots of features coming on these watches. But I hear a lot of runners saying, "Oh, my VO2 Max, it's dropped 2 points, but I'm training more. How can that be? Or my VO2 Max is only 30, but last year was 40." So it's hard to measure VO2 Max, and a watch cannot really accurately measure VO2 Max. You need to take blood samples. You need a very accurate heart rate reading. You need to be measuring oxygen output through a mask. So a watch cannot do that, of course. However, the watch can give you a trend, and that can be useful. And it's the same as heart rate measurement with a watch. I don't rely on it at all because I don't consider the watch readings very accurate, but it's useful as a trend. So don't worry too much about your watch's measurement of VO2 Max. But yeah, the question that was specifically raised, how to maximize VO2 Max. So that's a good question. Let's start with the definition of VO2 Max. So VO2 Max essentially is how efficient your body is at processing oxygen, at delivering oxygen to your muscles. So when we run, our legs need oxygen carried through the blood, and someone who has a higher VO2 Max can do it more efficiently. So they're fitter. Let's consider them as fitter than someone else. So of course we all want to get as high as we can. We all want to be as fit as we can, and that's why we train. But everybody is different, so we all have our own physiological composition, which affects VO2 Max of our bodies. That's a whole topic in itself. It's not one I'm an expert on. It's biology. There's a lot in there, but everyone is capable of increasing VO2 Max. Of course we are. And that's just a result of how we train. And we're going to talk about that in some of the other questions. But the simplest answer, how to maximize your VO2 Max, is by training in a way where you are utilizing VO2 Max, which means working above your threshold rate, which generally is defined as 3 to 5 minutes above that rate. So if you think of it in terms of a repetition, if you're running a 1K repetition, you want to be working in that 3 to 5 minute range. So you cannot sprint for that pace, obviously, but jogging is not enough. So it's a hard pace above your threshold, and at least once a week working at that pace will be one way of increasing your VO2 Max. But it depends on your current fitness, depends on many factors. But probably the simplest way to define it is doing some speed work above your threshold heart rate. Okay, I'm sure many questions will come onto that along the weeks, and we'll talk about that more. Okay, Dan, let's see what you're asking. So I've just had my second injury. In fact, I'm going to show this question. This is a new trick I just learned. Look at this. Haha. Okay, I just had my second injury, adductor muscle. Okay, previously was doing pure running and speed work. Was thinking I like strength work. Okay, how do I hide this? There we go. Okay, Dr. Ross speaking now. Let me put on my medical things. I get asked a lot of medical questions. I'm not a doctor, but I have seen many running injuries. I've had many running injuries. Yes, it's probably highly likely that a lack of strength work was one factor leading to it. Injuries are always there for a reason. So it's very rare that we get injured without a cause. So it can be crazy things like just your posture. It can be sleeping in a bad way. Obviously some kind of accident or a slip can put pressure on different parts of the body, which can lead to injury. So I'm a great believer in listening to the body and trying to figure out what's caused it. But yes, there's no doubt regular strength work will definitely help to prevent injuries. It won't stop them, but it will help you prevent injuries. Also cross training. So if you're talking about adductor muscles, that's kind of different type of movement perhaps to running, where cross training might help. I'm going to talk about that later on a question relating to trail running. Okay, there's another injury question. Let me just pick that one out. Oh no, it's not a question. Yeah, okay, just never rush back from injury. I think that's the rule. We're all eager to gain back our fitness and not to lose too much. I think all of the injuries I've had over the years, I've made the same mistake every time, gone back too quick, and then it prolongs. Get rid of it first. If you lose fitness, it's not the end of the world. Okay, let me just see if there's any other injury questions for now. Okay, I'm going to come on to a question that was raised by Ralph, which was talking about trail running and how to strengthen core and legs and protect knees and ankles for trail running, which I think is a great question. So a little bit of context. Trail running is a discipline where we're using a very different mechanic to road running. So road running is pretty steady. You're in that rhythm. You're using the same muscle groups, whereas trail is a bit more random. The terrain is very random. So you're always working different muscles, some of the supporting leg muscles rather than the core leg muscles. So yes, you have to strengthen those. So Ralph, I was thinking about your question, and a couple of things came to my mind. So some balancing work I think can help you a lot for trail running. So doing gym work that involves balancing and lateral movement, I think that helps. Cross training that involves sort of rapid foot movement, so racket sports would be really good. Where you're adjusting your feet to hit a ball, that can be a great cross training method for trail running. But there's no substitute for being in the trail. You don't have to be running, even just walking. Maybe walking with a weighted backpack can be a good way of strengthening the muscles for trail. Sometimes when you're hello. Sometimes just walk instead of running. Vary what you're doing in the trail. So sometimes push a hill hard where you would normally walk it or slow jog it. So just mix things up to apply different forces to your muscles. But probably the most important thing that came to my mind was when you're doing your gym work, make sure you're isolating one leg. So if you're doing squats, for example, instead of just going down on both, or in addition to going down on both, isolate one leg and the other. So you're doing single-legged squats. That's a great way of strengthening and making sure one side's not stronger than the other. Okay, let's see what else people are typing in. Norsas Mida, I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that right, but I did my best. Let me put this up here. How to increase speed without increasing heart rate. I think if I knew the answer to that, I would be a rich man. I don't think you can, or not easily in running training. So let's talk about how to increase speed. First of all, there's no shortcuts. So it takes time to improve our fitness. It takes time to improve our running speed and our running endurance. We're all in a hurry to get places fast, but patience and consistency are two very important measures in running training. So it depends where you're coming from. If you're coming from a complete beginner level where you're not really doing any running, then your path to increasing speed will naturally happen quicker. But for most of us, we're probably at a mid-level, and a lot of us have reached a plateau where we train regularly, we train hard, but we're no longer seeing an increase in speed. That's very, very common. And what I find is I ask people, okay, describe your typical week of training, and they'll tell me, okay, I jog twice a week and I do a long run on a Sunday. Tends to be a same routine every week, same pace, same distance. We're creatures of habit. It's natural we do that. So your body is pretty smart. It becomes very comfortable with what you ask it to do. So if you don't shock your body regularly, if you don't push the limits, you will not get quicker eventually. And that's just a reality. And that's at all levels. So with my own training, I have to find new and creative ways of shocking my body and making my training harder. You've always got to keep doing that. So one of the ideas behind the speed workout that we've designed with Project Fit is to help people mix up their training. So do the speed session that I prescribe every week. It'll probably be different to what you've been doing before. That will help you get quicker. But yes, your heart rate will increase. you need your heart rate to increase. I don't know any way without doing that. Okay, let's take this next question. Can I just run 3 days a week to achieve a sub-4 and full marathon? Okay, interesting question. Impossible to answer that, Sean. Some people could probably run a sub-3 with 3 days a week training, but that would be unusual. So yes, it may be possible, maybe not, I don't know. It depends on your running history, it depends on your injury history, depends on your speed, depends on your ability, depends on what pace you're running, what distance you're running. So hard to answer that one. I would say 3 days a week is on the low side for training for a full marathon. I would always ask someone to commit for 4. But I guess it could be possible. If you were going to do 3 days a week, I would ask you to do a pretty hard speed session that includes a good bit of mileage. So it might be speed workout plus some easy mileage on the end. I'd then ask for another easy run. And then I would ask for your long run. That would be the best way to do 3 days a week. But if possible, probably stick in another day of running, I would suggest. Okay, nice to see other people chipping in with their comments on some of these. Thank you very much. Okay, Ravindran, nice to see you. Ravindran has worked with me for a couple of years and a regular at our classes. Nice question. How to tackle the mind, the psychology of running. Well, I'm certainly not a psychologist. However, I do consider myself mentally strong or mental. I'm quite good at doing something I set my mind to, and I think that's very important in running. But it's up to you. Why do you want to run? I guess is the most important question. Not everyone wants to be faster. Some people just want to clear the head, want to be fit, want to lose weight. So it depends on your motivation. But yeah, assuming you want to run, which most of us do, and assuming you enjoy something about running, then it's really up to you to make it happen. We can take the horse to water, but we cannot make it drink, Ravindra. And we've had a few chats on this ourselves. But anyone else got some tips? I don't know. Maybe running with a partner is a good idea. Just can break up the monotony, put a bit of accountability. It's always nice to have targets, of course. Difficult at the moment, no races, but I think you have to find your own motivation ultimately. Tan, is it recommended to do running every day? Probably not. Not many people do. I definitely believe one day off per week is a very good idea, even for elite runners. So personally, I recommend taking one day off per week, and you can do additional sessions on those other 6 days. So personally, I run 9 to 10 times a week, but I still take one day off. Most people, no, you need enough recovery time, and it took me a long time to build up to that level. If I did that 3 years ago, I would be injured, no doubt. So you have to listen to your body. You have to find what works for you, what works for your routine. Everyone's got other things they need to balance in their life. So don't get fixated on mileage or how many days, how many sessions. I think that's important. But yes, you can build it, but build it gradually. Okay, let's come on to this one. Which one is better, running with pace or heart rate? This is quite a contentious topic, and one I'm quite opinionated on. It's my personal opinion that working with heart rate is not the best thing to do, especially in this climate. And there's many reasons why I think that. The main reason is it's very hard to accurately measure your heart rate. The watches are not that good at measuring heart rate. Many factors influence your heart rate on any given day. Caffeine, stress, sleep, sickness, all these things, fatigue basically. So heart rate is a great indicator of your condition on that day, and I think it's very useful to measure heart rate every morning or every evening. Morning is better after you wake up, to get a trend of your base heart rate. That can be a very, very good indicator of how you're feeling and what condition you're in. But I'm wary of training by heart rate because I feel it can limit you sometimes. And I've got many examples of people that have come to me saying, Jeff, my watch is telling me I need to be running at this zone of heart rate, and I'm doing my easy runs at 9 minutes per kilometer. It's taking me 2 hours to run 12K. And I just think, well, you're almost walking. It's that slow. And I know you're a better runner than that. You're faster, you're fitter. So is that really helping you, that you're changing the way you run so significantly just so that you're in a certain heart rate zone? So I'm not a huge fan of it. Here, I like working with pace. I like doing regular time trials to see where you're at with pace. And I like having a banding of pace. So for example, easy runs, I have a 20-second range that I like to work with. So that's my personal opinion. There's a lot of research on it, but that's how I work. That's how I train with my guys. Ming Han, how are you, Ming? Does soaking the legs in ice help with recovery? This is another contentious topic. You guys are asking tough questions. I think it was Dr. Merkel, if I'm not mistaken, identified the RICE acronym about 30 years ago. And 5 years ago, the same doctor acknowledged publicly that he or she, actually I don't even know if it's he or she, I think it's a he, has changed opinion on it. And that the body requires inflammation in order to heal, which makes sense to me. So personally, I would only ice if I needed to get the inflammation down in order to continue exercising at that very moment. And the only time I would do that would be in an endurance race where I have a problem and I need to fix it. Otherwise, to me, your body's reacting. It's telling you you've got a problem. It's swelling in order to help the blood flow and help the healing process. So why on earth would you want to ice and stop that? It makes no sense to me. If anyone wants the article on that, I'm happy to send that afterwards. I know it's a contentious topic, and probably 9 out of 10 doctors will tell you to ice. But for me, I'm going to go with a guy or a girl that came up with a theory and then very difficult to do, announced that they are no longer of the same opinion. Okay, I'll go back to the pre-submitted question in a second because I want to try and answer as many of those as possible. My 10 km timing is 47 minutes plus. What should my tempo run pace? Okay, I would need to calculate that pace. I'm not able to answer that one. Distance on tempo runs. Yeah, that's a good question. It's hard to answer because it depends at what level you're at. But basically, tempo is a term a lot of people use and probably don't understand. So tempo is threshold. It means comfortably hard. So you're just running below the point where your body, cannot cope with it. So it's not too pleasant a distance. So for some people that might be just a 6K tempo run. For some people it might be a 20K tempo run. So that's very personal to you and your training, I think. Okay, let me come back to some of these questions. Yeah, this is a nice one. Strength workout for legs. I'm worried that too much strength workout on the legs would be sore and impact negatively during the running sessions. If you experience pain in the days after a strength session, then to me that's a great indicator. So it's showing, it's showing something has worked. It's showing you've used muscles that probably need a bit of training up. So you shouldn't be afraid of that fatigue, that muscle fatigue. The golden rule is to avoid back-to-back hard sessions, so you can include strength work in that. So I would never do a strength session the day before a hard speed session, simply because you won't do as well in the speed session. But a bit of pain is fine, nothing to be worried about. On your easy runs, you can run through that pain, and it will help your body heal that pain. So yeah, don't stress about having pain after a strength workout. Okay, is heel striking bad? It's a good question. Again, probably a contentious question. Everyone has their own running technique. There is no perfect technique, although perhaps Eliud Kipchoge would be one that we would all look to in admiration of of a fantastic running technique. But regardless of that, actually, what you're looking for is a technique that holds over time. So what I mean by that, everyone can run 1 kilometer with a nice running technique, but as we fatigue, if you think of a tough race distance for you, it might be 10k, might be 21, might be 42. I'm sure you can remember a time during that race where you feel like you can hardly move your legs. I've been there many times, and you just know something's not working very well, and you know if someone was taking a video that it's not going to look great, and that's what we want to train towards. We want to help our bodies to maintain form as we get fatigued, and really that's the ultimate measure of fitness and good technique. So heel striking is not necessarily bad. It's probably recognized that a mid-foot strike or a forefoot strike is more efficient in terms of pulling the ground along and reducing the energy that goes into the ground. For me, the easiest way to explain it is to take off your shoes, go for a run barefoot, and see how it feels. And that's when you'll see that your foot is designed to use the front part, which is where we have all the strength in the foot. So probably heel striking is something we're all guilty of. Some of us maybe only when we get tired. And it's something to be conscious about, but not to stress about too much. For me, the best way to help to correct it is to focus on cadence. So get your cadence a little bit quicker, which means you're pulling the foot through quicker, and it's hard to do that when you're heel striking. So it forces you a little bit more onto your forefoot. Okay, hopefully that is of some use. How are we doing for time? We have got another 10-15 minutes, no problem. Okay, let me come back and scroll through some of these questions. Okay, Eileen D. I don't want to do too many injury questions, but best workout for now, I can walk well, but when I jog it hurts. So I think it's important to figure out why it hurts. Is it injury related? Is it another part of your body that's perhaps causing pain through the imbalance? But ultimately, if it hurts when you're jogging, that's not a good sign. Something in your body is telling you something is not right, and you want to find a way to treat that. I think it's a fine balance, and here you need to know your own body very, very well. I always joke with people and say, well, I can't remember the last time that I woke up in the morning and didn't have some kind of pain, and a little bit of pain is okay, and it kind of soon goes away, but any kind of sharp pain is normally an indicator that you shouldn't be running. But if you're able to walk without pain, I guess that's a good sign. So not sure, hard to advise on that, I guess. Okay, Patrick. I'm assuming this is my German friend, Patrick. Makes very good cakes. Okay, what's Patrick got to say? Going into the topic of training plans, I was familiar with rest days, taper weeks. Now recently I came across regular rest weeks, so e.g. 3 weeks of higher training load followed by 1 week of lower load. Well, I can see why that would appeal to you, Patrick. Yeah, that's a pretty common pattern. 4 or 5 week cycle with one of the weeks that definitely tapers down. That's super compensation, and after the rest week, after the lower week, you then want to be putting a hard training week in. It doesn't have to be high mileage, but you want high intensity, high speed, good quality training. So absolutely, you should back off every so often. So a pretty common theme of training is to gradually increase 10% your mileage and then pull it back down on that fourth or fifth week. Okay. Tan, how are you doing? Recommended cadence. Again, there's no right answer on this one. I like 180 as a number. I think it's a nice round number. But the context of this makes it impossible to answer. I can share with you my cadence journey. Took me many years to increase my cadence. Probably took me 7 years to get from 170 to 190. So now when I'm racing, I'll be over 190, about 192, which I'm very happy with. But in the early days of my running, I was below 180. I think 180 is a nice number for a speed workout or for a race. It's harder to do that when you're doing your easy runs, and I think most people have a lower cadence on their easy runs. I really don't worry about it anymore in my training. I like to look at it on a race statistic, but I don't look at it at all regularly in my training. I think I know my body well enough to know how I'm running, but yeah, a lot of people probably do need to increase their cadence, and it's something to be encouraged. For me, it's all about the hips. So anyone who talks to me about stride length or cadence, I get them, take the focus away from that, get it onto hips. So the best way to improve either of those is by working on our hip strength and hip mobility, which enables us to pick the knee up and to drive that stride on and on. And it's the same about fatigue. And everyone can do a high cadence for a short while, but can you maintain that? So most of us have weak hips, and hip exercise is one that you must do. This week's weekly challenge is the hip circle. It's my favorite exercise. I'm always preaching about it. Nobody ever listens to me. Do the hip circle. It's the easy one to do. You don't even sweat when you're doing it. It makes a massive difference to your cadence and stride. So if you haven't yet started this week's weekly challenge, get on it. Okay. Oh, this question I like. Suraj, how are you doing? Best strategy for a 5K time trial or a race? Start fast and hang on for dear life. Or how would you do it? Okay. I'm laughing at this because I've made a mess of 5Ks so many times. It's quite a tough distance to race. It's effectively a sprint. It's pretty unpleasant. So you do need to get your pacing right. But any race really should be even pace. That's always your objective. Same pace from start to finish. I suppose the perfect race would be slightly accelerating and at the end, going for your life. So start fast and hang on for dear life. No, I would not recommend that, because I don't know many people that are capable of doing that. You might do that in a mile, but anything over that distance is going to be hard, and you will inevitably slow down. So actually it's better to start conservative and finish fast. Okay, we'll take a couple more questions, then we'll wrap it up, I think. Bong, how often should hill training be incorporated in a training plan? Great question. I'm quite a fan of hill training. I quite like the hills. We shouldn't be afraid of hills. Anyone who's come to my classes will know my mantra. Hills are your friend. Why do I say that? They're not really our friends, are they? Hill training makes our legs stronger. That's the main benefit. It gets the heart rate going, so it's a good way of helping our training, mixing up our training. Most races in Malaysia involve hills, or at least in the KL area, there's always hills. So if you're going to race in the hills, then you have to train in the hills. So it doesn't really matter how often it is. I do most of my easy runs on hills. I find that's quite a good way to do it. And I will do a hill speed session probably once every 3 weeks, once every 2 weeks. Depends what I'm training for. But I'll do a lot of work on easy running on the hills every single day. So you can look forward to a hill workout. I think in 2 weeks' time will be your running workout of the week. Is going to be a hill session. So yeah, you can look forward to that. But definitely do hills. Don't be afraid. Don't avoid hills. Okay. Any last questions? Please type them in. Sorry if I've missed out people. I know there were some other comments coming in that I didn't necessarily look at. Let me just check a couple from my list. Yeah, this is a good question. Should I eat before I run? That's a pretty common question, and very important to just unhide this. Very important to play around with this and find what works for you. So, and this is one for me I got wrong for so many years. I was always eating a couple of hours before a race, and I got worried if I was going to be hungry. Now I've got it right. I basically don't eat anything after sort of 9 p.m. for the next day, either for training or a race, and that works very well for me. Our bodies have a lot of reserves. We're perfectly capable of coping with a couple of hours exercise on an empty stomach, even if we feel hungry. Most of us have some fat reserves there that we can use and draw on. So experiment with it. Definitely, I would avoid eating 3 to 4 hours before you run as a rule of thumb, but probably a bit more. Nutrition is a massive topic. We'll have lots of questions about that, and we'll have a dedicated nutrition Q&A in March with Adele. So it's very important for sure. But yeah, that would be my advice on that. Okay, let's take 2 more questions and we'll wrap it up. Kent, doesn't running under heat environment help Malaysian runner? This is a nice question. So difficult one to answer. Most people struggle with the heat and with the humidity, and of course it's harder to run in heat than it is in cooler conditions. There's no disputing that. Our body uses oxygen to cool. So it uses blood flow to cool. So yeah, when you're running in the heat, you're not operating on full capacity. Some people can cope better with that than others. So I think yes, there is benefit in training in heat because it's harder, and then when you go into cooler conditions, you'll find it easier. However, the stress and fatigue that it puts on your body needs to be very carefully considered. And if you go and do a intervals workout at 1 p.m. in the sun, 35 degrees, you'll be able to do it as long as you're drinking enough, and it won't be pleasant, but probably your recovery time will be way longer than if you did it in the morning. Or not probably, definitely your recovery time. And you might not necessarily take that recovery time, and you might think you're fine, but that fatigue will build, and that will lead to underperformance, and it can lead to injury. So I don't worry too much about the heat. I do quite a lot of my easy runs in the heat, but I would definitely not do any hard sessions in the heat unless I was forced to. Thanks for that question. Okay, so I think we're going to wrap up. Thanks very much for tuning in. Again, my apologies if I didn't answer your question. For those that I did, I hope I was able to give some tips. Again, a lot of what I've said is my personal opinion and my experience. Others may disagree, and that's absolutely fine. I'm happy to take any follow-up questions and discuss anything with any of you individually. So let's leave it like that today. Thanks again for joining Project Fit. Please do the training. I've designed it so that it's bite size. Of course, you will do your own running on top of that, those of you that are regular runners. But if you do nothing else other than the speed workout, the strength workout, and the weekly challenge, you're going to get fitter and you're going to feel better. So please give it a go, and please help us to spread the word. We're doing this free of charge. We will continue to do that. We're excited about some new stuff coming soon, and let's leave it like that. So thank you very much. We will edit this video and we'll upload it on YouTube and also on Facebook for playback. Okay, happy running. Bye for now.